Hello everybody, welcome, and tonight we're going to show you how I edit the Milky Way in about 5 minutes or less here. I really try and keep it simple with some basic adjustments. Sometimes I'll go a little much, but that's all personal preference. So before we get into editing, I'll just tell you a little bit about the shot here. So this was shot on the Sony A7 with my Rokinon 24mm f1.4 lens. The settings were, I believe, f2.8, 15 seconds, ISO 6400. And this was shot just outside of Las Vegas to the east, about 45 minutes out of town. This was taken in March of 2017. So, the first thing that I do is I'll apply lens profile correction. So I just come over to my presets that I have saved here and double click on my Rokinon 24mm. You can also come into lens correction and come in and select the lens that you've got here if you don't have a preset for it. The next thing I do is I go to my tone curve and I'm going to change this. Again, a preset that I have for the Milky Way, I just down on the darks a little bit and then up quite a bit on the whites and highlights, and that just adds a good bit of contrast to the Milky Way. And we'll just I'll just add a little bit more through my basic settings. So first thing I do after in the basic settings is I come to my white balance and go ahead and go up just a little bit to 4100 and probably about +5 on the magenta there. And then since I shot this at f2.8, I'm going to increase the exposure just a little bit to about +0.5. I'm going to go just add a little bit of contrast, about 15 or so. Take my highlights down just a little bit so I'm not blowing out the Milky Way, the core right here, too much. I'll go down just a little bit more because I'm going to bring my whites up a bit. Shadows I'll go up just a little bit just to bring up some of the shadows in the foreground, not too much, maybe about 25 there. And take my whites up. Whoop, that's too much. Maybe +20 on the whites. And I'll just leave the blacks where they're at. And then the vibrance, I'll take this usually about 15 or 20. And that just helps bring out some of the color that you lose shooting such a high ISO. Sometimes I'll go a little bit more. Sometimes I won't. So that looks pretty good for my basic settings. The next I'm going to add some adjustment brushes. And so I'm going to use the graduated filter, and I'm going to come down to the dehaze. And yeah, 30 looks good. I'm also going to add a little bit of contrast in this. So up on the contrast a little bit and a little bit of clarity. And this is for the sky. Let's do 20. And that's good to start. I may make a few more adjustments. So I just grab and pull a brush down. I'm just going to put that center line down along the horizon. Even though that takes in the foreground a little bit, I'll fix that. So you can see up here, it adds quite a bit of contrast to the sky. That dehaze really helps take out some of the haziness in the sky and just add some of that contrast. So in Adobe Lightroom Classic CC, there's this range mask that you can adjust your filters and stuff for. And so I'm just going to go to luminance, and I'm going to take the bottom and I'll slide it up, and you can see that mask is now just hitting the brighter parts of the photograph instead of the darker stuff down here on the foreground. Let me just up a little bit more on that. So that's just going to affect most of the sky there. A little bit of stuff in there, but I'm not too worried about that. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to hit done on that. So just do a little before and after. I'm going to increase the foreground just a little bit as well. I'll do the same thing with my graduated brush. And I'm going to do a dodge and just take it here and really take it up. And then on this one, I'm going to go to my brush with this graduated filter, and I'm going to actually brush out the sky a little bit here. So if I hold down Alt or Option on the Mac, it gives you the little subtract. Make sure my auto mask is on, and just make this a really big brush, and I'm just going to come and brush out the sky stuff here. And you see that red just kind of disappear from the sky. So now any adjustments I make are going to be to the foreground. So I'll show you here. So I increase the exposure maybe a little bit more, shadows up a touch. I don't want to go too much because it'll really add a lot of noise. Whites and highlights up just a little bit. And then I'm going to add some noise control on that a little bit, and then maybe a little bit of sharpening to help that out. Okay, that looks pretty good. That's really pretty the basics of editing the shot. The last thing I'll do is under detail, I'll add a little bit of sharpening. I always set it to 50, and then luminance, usually around 15 to 20 on the luminance. And that looks pretty good. I think I'm going to make a few more adjustments to the sky here. It seems a little too bright for my taste, so I'm going to come in and I'm just going to take the shadows down a little bit. Maybe the black's down to 10 or so. A little bit up on the clarity. And yeah, I think that looks pretty good. So that's my edit in 5 minutes or so of the Milky Way. If you have any questions, post them in the comments. Thanks.